Hello, I'm Sai, and today we're going to be talking about the lies that vegans tell themselves. And I'm going to arm you with the information you need to overcome these lies. We're going to get right into it. The first one is regarding B12. So let's go ahead and listen to what the vegans have to say about B12.
Even though the meat does contain B12, all of the meat and dairy industry are fortified.
If we are low in B12, we're only getting a secondary form of B12 that the animals already created within them. So the supplementation from its raw form would be to go and get a supplement rather than having the supplement that the animal has had and ingested and having it through that way.
So now that you've heard what the vegans have to say about getting your B12 and how the animals get your B12, animals do not rely on supplementation to get their vitamin B12, and especially cows do not rely on supplementation of vitamin B12. There are instances where cows have to be given vitamin B12, and there are some instances where they have to be supplemented with cobalt, but it's not the norm. And in nature, as long as cows are grazing in a place where there is sufficient cobalt in the soil, which is most places, then there's never a need to supplement cows with B12. They get it from cobalt in their diet, which is then synthesized in their rumen gut into B12. Lie number 2 regarding supplements. Let's hear what the vegans have to say.
Try to grow as much as you can. You're going to live, a very extended period of life without any
If you
ailments.
can't, just remember that the supplementation is probably needed because of the way that the commercials
It's
is
definitely
grown.
needed, and that's the thing. That's the sad thing, because a lot of us create a mindset that we don't want anything like that.
You heard the vegans say that supplements are needed. So this is a way for the vegan people to justify their diet because it's deficient in things that you actually need. So they have to pretend you can't get what you need from any diet. They need to believe that to justify themselves being vegan. I'm not saying that there's never a good time to supplement anything. For example, eating a high meat-based diet, I do pretty regularly supplement with magnesium. But it wouldn't be necessary if I was to add certain other foods into my diet. And other carnivore type people have discovered this. So, not true. Vegans lose again. Let's hear what the vegans have to say about meat protein.
The meat that is on an animal, which is protein, has been synthesized from glucose and amino acids. They have worked together to create protein, and now this is turned into muscle. To eat this flesh, which is protein, it has to be broken down into smaller chains of amino acids and then re-put back together in the body. It's not an efficient way.
So now that you've heard that the vegans say that meat protein is not simple for the body to use, I'm not going to even reference a study because it is widely known and accepted that animal foods have more usable protein. And there aren't other factors that inhibit the absorption of protein like there are in many plant-based sources of protein. Lie number 4 that vegans tell. Let's hear what it is.
If you look at the tribes, the Maasai tribe, they got an average life expectancy of 42 to 45 years of age. It's not a very long life expectancy. They're predominantly on a meat-based diet. And then you look at the Inuits, and that they were eating fish, which is a better form of food because it's less conscious and has less emotional and instability within inside the flesh. They're like 60 years of age. So there's not a really long living lifespan of somebody that's eating a predominantly meat dominant lifestyle.
So they say there's no long living groups of meat eaters, and they use the Maasai and Eskimos as an example. What my answer to that is, not only are there not any long living vegan cultures, there aren't any. There are absolutely no vegan cultures of people to even know if they would live long or not. And some people will argue that the Essenes, including Jesus, ate a vegan diet, but that is not true. They were vegetarians and they had milk. Lie number 4, debunked. Lie number 5 that vegans tell. Let's go ahead and listen to what they have to say.
So when you're consuming meat, it's so dense, it's not very assimilated easy by the body. It causes inflammation, which causes a full feeling, and the breakdown of it is very slow.
So now that you've heard this common misunderstanding and basically myth that meat causes inflammation, let's really quickly just reference the most up-to-date study on whether or not meat causes inflammation. And that study is titled Effects of Total Red Meat Intake on Glycemic Control and Inflammatory Biomarkers, a meta-analysis of randomized controlled trials. And here is their conclusion. Total red meat consumption for up to 16 weeks does not affect changes in biomarkers of glycemic control or inflammation for adults free of but at risk for cardiometabolic disease. There is no inflammation caused by the eating of red meat. And the final lie that vegans tell, lie number 6, let's hear it.
I then looked into studies, and in the 90s, there were studies done with vegans, and they weren't really kept on, but it was known that vegans had a lot higher testosterone than any meat eater does.
So you heard it said from the vegans that testosterone in vegans is higher. Not only is this misrepresenting studies, it could be that vegans are actually getting more feminizing hormones, according to the studies that I have here in front of me. And I didn't cherry pick these. These were the only ones I could find, actually. Here's what they had to say about testosterone in vegans. In a study called Testosterone, Sex Hormone Binding Globulin, Calculated Free Testosterone, and Estradiol in Male Vegans and Omnivores, it is concluded that a vegan diet causes a substantial increase in sexual hormone binding globulin, but has little effect on total or free T or E2. So this is important to know. So the SHBG is the sex hormone binding globulin, which was considerably higher in vegans. So the overall testosterone seemed to be higher in vegans at first, but that's because there was so much of it that was bound to sex hormone binding globulin. And what is needed to be known about this is that this actually prevents the testosterone from being used. So it stays in the body longer, but it doesn't get used, because only free testosterone can be used. That being said, the free testosterone was higher in the omnivorous group. In addition, the estradiol, or E2, was higher in the vegan group. I also just looked a little further because I wanted to find another study. This one was called Hormones on Diet, Low Insulin-like Growth Factor, but Normal Bioavailable Androgens in Vegan Men. And what they found is that vegans had higher testosterone levels than vegetarians and meat eaters, but this was offset by higher sex hormone binding globulin. And there were no difference between the diet groups in free testosterone, androstenediol, glucuronide, or luteinizing hormone. So they came up with basically the same results. But here's something to be aware of when it comes to the sex hormone binding globulin. There are certain conditions that cause increased SHBG production, and one of those is hypothyroidism. So could it be that the vegan diet is causing the thyroid to malfunction and for vegans to have hypothyroidism, and that is why they are getting this higher amount of sex hormone binding globulin? Tell me what you think. I think that we pretty much showed that vegans have to make justifications for themselves to stay vegan and to convince others that it is good for them so that they feel good about staying on it and can remain in their religion. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel and share this video, and I will see you next time. Thank you.